He's going all the way. 20, 15, 10. Touchdown. Texas Tech takes home the victory.
Welcome to the Broadway Shuffle with Clayton, Zyler, and Conrad. I am Brennan, and today we are joined by a name you probably recognize. Texas Tech head football coach Joey McGuire joins us. So, Coach, how you doing today, man? Thank you for being on.
Doing great. We scrimmaged yesterday, and this is our rec and recovery day. So we've had meetings and watched film, and then the guys have really tried to get their body weights back to where they're supposed to be. And this building, you can't imagine the stuff that they have in this building to be able to get their bodies right. So that's kind of what today's been about.
Yeah, Coach. Well, we appreciate you taking your recovery day and hanging out with us. That's not much of a recovery, but we appreciate that. Hey, I wanted to get.
I got in the dry float today. I got in the dry float. I mean,
that's awesome.
I got to be recovered too.
Yeah, man.
Coach, one of my good, I guess my sister-in-law, she said she tried the zero gravity bed during the Women of the Brand. She said it was unbelievable. She said she's going to try to get her husband to buy one. So I know you got a bunch of good stuff out there.
Those are pretty incredible.
Yeah, the facility's top notch, man. It's great. It's a great resource for the program. Coach, I wanted to start with a question. You know, we've obviously seen you now going into year 4. You bring such an energy and a passion to the program every single day, and it's something that I've always wanted to ask you. Like, where did that passion and love for the game come from? Where did you first fall in love with football, and where do you feel like the passion to be a head coach or a coach in football in general really came from for you?
Yeah, I think my personality, as far as like the way I wake up every day, is definitely from my mom, but the passion for football and sports is my dad. You know, if you go to Crowley, he's Coach McGuire. I mean, he coached everybody, you know, me all the way through, coached my sister. I've got 2 cousins that are we're 10 years apart. He coached them all the way through all their stuff. And, you know, I grew up around it, and man, I fell in love with it. It was something that brought he and I together. And then my first year I was at Crowley. So my first 3 years I coached at the school that I graduated from. And I was the head freshman baseball coach. And I want like that moment after really the first week, I'm like, I want to be a head coach. Like, I don't want to just stop being an assistant, a coordinator. Like, everything that I got to plan out for practice, making the lineups, the decision making in the games, I just fell in love with that. So I was like, okay, everything I do from here on out is to be a head coach.
That's awesome, man.
You know, it's funny. You said you always wanted to be a head coach. When you were obviously a very successful head coach at Cedar Hill. When you transitioned out into Baylor, was the plan always to try to be a D1 head coach after that? Was that something where you just wanted a new challenge going to the collegiate ranks? You know, what made you want to take that jump? And then what was that transition like?
Well, you know, I had the opportunity from 2006 to 2016. I had a job offer every year for those 10 years.
Wow.
I almost went to Tulsa. Todd Graham was the head coach. Chad Morris was the offensive coordinator. Chad and I are really good friends, and he calls me and says, "Hey man, let's do this together." And I interviewed, but the spot didn't come open for linebackers. Keith Patterson, who everybody knows, he's the defense coordinator here. He's the head coach at Abilene Christian, a good friend of mine. He thought he was going to A&M, and it didn't work out. So I stayed at Cedar Hill. And once I made that choice, I wanted to coach my daughter and my son. And in 2016, it was my son's last year. And I was like, you know, nothing's ever going to be the same. Like,
sure,
from where I'd been at that point. And so I was like, hey, I'm going to take a shot, and I need a new challenge. And man, I'm telling you guys, the whole reason I'm sitting right here is because I went to work for Matt Rule. If I hadn't gone to work for Matt Rule at Baylor, I wouldn't be the head coach at Texas Tech, because within 3 weeks of me being at Baylor and being around Coach Rule, and he and I are extremely close. I mean, I consider him a brother. And, I talked to him yesterday and today. And so he, within 3 weeks, said, Joey, you're supposed to be a head coach at this level. Let me help you with the stuff that you don't know. And that's, managing the roster, graduation, getting them graduated early. He's a great evaluator of talent. So I learned so much in recruiting that away. But man, whenever I got with him, I get really lucky with a guy that has no ego whenever it comes to let me show you everything and anything. And he let me be a part of it. And within 3 years, I was interviewing for jobs. 2019, I interviewed for 2 jobs. I actually turned one down. And then, was lucky enough to get the job that, my dream job. And guys, I'm telling you, man, I'll die in Lubbock, Texas. I work. I'm gonna tell you, man, I work every single day. And y'all know my wife. My wife has said it to me a lot. We got to win games because I love Lubbock. I plan on being here as long as I'm coaching, and I don't think I'll ever retire. So it's gonna be a while.
That's great to hear, man.
Sounds good.
Coach, you talk a little bit about, you ended up at Tech, obviously, and we're obviously very happy to have you as a head coach here. That interview process is always so, shrouded in secrecy. It's college football is such a big part of people's lives. They always want to know what's happening. When you did those interviews and you've done those things, what do you think the specific question and then your answer that, sealed the deal? I know it's a lot of things. It's not one thing, but if you could go back and give us a little insight on what that process was like, what was your best answer in the interview process?
Well, so it's really, for this job, it was really unique because when it came open, I'm represented by, and I laugh every time, my 13-year-old self is like, you got an agent? Like, who do you think you are? And so every time I say that, I laugh. But A1 Coaching is the agency, and I'm with Alex Hammond, and I called Alex, and I said, look, man, I want this job. Like, let's friggin' go get it. Let's just go find a way to get it. And so, I got to talk to Kirby first over the phone, like a phone interview. And Jeff Traylor also interviewed for this job. And Jeff Traylor is one of my very good friends.
Sure.
And whenever I talked to him, he said, okay, here's who's, because he interviewed before me, here's who's on the committee. Here are some of the people you need to talk to. And I called Alex again. I said, hey, I need to talk to Cody Campbell. And Alex goes, well, you're going to get to, you have an interview. And I go, no. He needs to know how bad I want this job. And so he goes, well, I'll try to get his cell phone. I said, no, I'll get his cell phone. I'm going to find a way. And literally I called Cody and I said, listen, I know we're going to get to talk, but I got to talk to you before I walk in that room. And I need you to know how bad I want this job. And I went through everything that Tech means to me and the history of Texas Tech and my family, and my dog's born in Lubbock and all that stuff. And I just wanted the guys that were going to be in that room when I walked into that interview to understand I was going all in. This was it. And to go back to your question, I said the brand, we're going to be the toughest, hardest working, most competitive team in the country. And President Skubanek, it still gives me chill bumps whenever I think about this. He turns and he says, well, that is West Texas. That is who we are. And I went, oh, man, I got one guy on my side. I was like, okay, I got the president. And so, there was 2 interviews. There was an interview with the big committee, and then I had another interview with Kirby and at the time the assistant AD, and they actually interviewed me and Debbie together. And then
wow,
they say, Kirby and Debbie, she walked out of the interview and she's walking down this spiral staircase, and without turning around, she just goes, wreck them, really loud. And they all turned and looked, and they say that's why I got the job. Debbie claims that,
nice.
So does Kirby.
Wow.
So
does she
That's
hold that
great.
over you?
she does. She reminds me all the time.
Okay.
She's
great.
the reason I got the
That's
job.
amazing.
Yeah. Coach, you mentioned obviously your love for Texas Tech is so obvious in every appearance you do, every game you coach. What is it about Texas Tech and the people of West Texas that you just love so much because you fit so well? What is it that it was so special about Texas Tech to you from not only your history, but also from your time being here as a part of the Red Raider family?
You know, I'm a Texan. I was born in Texarkana, moved to Crowley whenever I was going into middle school and spent all my life. I've never been anywhere else, and grew up in the Southwest Conference days and, came out here all the time. My best friend played here and then my sister went here. 2 brother-in-laws went here. My nephew played for Cliff. I was coming here and I met Debbie. And so that's the reason my junior year I was transferring here we already had a house. Everything was ready to go. And I met Debbie. And so I that's one thing. I have a lot of history out here in West Texas. But the other thing is I just think my mentality of waking up every day and trying to prove people wrong and believing that, tough people win. I love Grant's saying whenever he says tough teams win. I think that's the mentality of Texas Tech, and it really, it's what I believe in. And then when you get out here, the people are incredible, the food's incredible, and the weather is absolutely incredible. And I will argue that with anybody. Find a better morning or an afternoon or an evening anywhere in the state of Texas to where you can sit on your back porch and you're not sweating, at 8 o'clock at night or 9 o'clock at night. I mean, I'm a big back porch guy. So there's so much about this place that, man, I was in love, with Tech, but just fell in love with it, the more we're out here. And I will tell you this, and I'll say it. I said it the other day with something. When I started understanding the fan base, it made me even love it more, but it also made me want to win more because I want to win for this fan base. This group deserves it. This group deserves to win the Big 12 and be in the playoffs.
Yes, sir. Coach, you got 2 Lubbock locals there in Clayton and Zyler, born and raised. So you're speaking to the choir there. I might need you to call my wife, though. I've been trying to move from Dallas to Lubbock for years. She refuses it. So a recruiting pitch from you might help. That might sell her right there.
I got you.
Yeah, I agree. That was good. But coaches obviously live way different lives than any of us or really any profession. It seems like, normal things that we probably take for granted, like just going to church or lunch or developing communities, may be way harder. How do you balance like a personal life with your family as well as, coaching, recruiting, and all the stuff that goes with that?
I'm really lucky. My wife's all in. I mean, she's the same. I mean, we get through with the scrimmage and she's literally sitting in the middle of the team, around the guys. They call her Miss Debbie, and so she's locked in. Man, I was so lucky. Another reason I want to win so bad is because Kirby Hocutt and this administration's so good to me. I was able to hire my son, from Nebraska. He was coached 2 years in the NFL, coached 2 years in Nebraska, and I was able to hire him. So now that even brings the family even closer. My daughter's a Red Raider, and so she's fired up and comes out here as much as possible. So we spend a lot of time, the in season, it's Groundhog Day, like the movie. Like I don't go out, like you're not going to see me in a restaurant. Once season starts. Last night I went and ate at West Table, because we scrimmaged. We had 11 o'clock scrimmage to mock the 11 o'clock kick week 2. And so I had time. So Debbie and I went to West Table and ate, but like in the season, you're not going to see me. The only time you're going to see me out in the season is when I do the radio show at Rudy's. But in the off season, man, I try to be a part of the community as much as possible. And man, I love the restaurants. I've got, some go-tos and I just love this community, man. So the in season, man, it's just tough because I'm going to be up here. We practice in the afternoons on Tuesday and Wednesday, and I'm not getting out of here till pretty late because I'm grading the practice and making all my notes for the next staff meeting. And I cut up film, to have questions for the coordinators and the staff. And, that's kind of my part of us getting ready for the game. And so you said it. You don't have a lot of time as a coach to do anything other than coach during the season.
Yeah, Coach, I wanted to ask you as well that kind of transition into when the season starts and your schedule and just being around the guys. It's something that we recognize that you just feel like, I don't want to say a dad, but it just feels like they really relate to you, and that you bond with your players. And in the new era of college football, now more than ever, it seems like that's a tricky thing to do with the transfer portal and different things. Tell us a little bit about how you're able to build those relationships with your guys and with the players coming in, and how you've been able to establish such a culture, because we see it even in the small clips and the brand and that sort of thing. We see the bond that you're able to build with your players and with the team. Talk a little bit about how you're able to do that so well in this modern era of college football.
Yeah, I always kind of look as a big brother. Like, I kind of look at it that way.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm the same way every day. They're going to get the same guy. There's never a time that I ever deviate. When my feet hit the floor, I make a choice to have a great day. They're a part of it. Man, I cannot wait to walk in this building and be around the guys. So they know what they're going to get. And when we're off the field, and let's say we're just in the cash eating, or we're, in passing, I joke with them a lot. I mess with them a lot. I know their families. I know what's going on in their lives. So I have a lot of things to talk about. And then once we walk into the meeting room, it's all football. And so now I kind of flip a switch of, they know exactly what they're going to get whenever I walk in the meeting room. Then between the white lines, I always tell them nothing's personal. I mean, sure, I'm not going to make it personal, but nothing's personal. It's iron sharpens iron. So they know what they're going to get. There's never they can never question what they're going to get from Coach McGuire. I'm the exact same way. I used to say I was like the sun, rises and sets. That's how it's going. But whenever I got here, I changed that. Xavier, so whenever I first got the job, I was lucky enough that I got to meet with every single player that had eligibility one-on-one. And then we did the team meeting. And so Xavier White, who is now on my staff, walks in, and he's got this pump jack medal that he's wearing, chain, that Sonny Cumbie did. And I was like, man, what is that? Tell me about that. And he was like, what's a pump jack? And I was like, I know what a pump jack is. What's it all about? And he goes, well, we give it to the teammate that's the most consistent that day, that had the best practice. And I went, well, I guess I'm like the pump jack. It doesn't matter if it's raining. It doesn't matter. Like, even when we lose, I can internalize. I can push that here to make sure they don't feel that I've changed and that I'm disappointed. Like, they're not going to get that stuff. There's a reason we win. There's a reason we lose. If we lose, I'm not going to come in here and it's not going to be the end of the world that they see. It might be in the end of the world inside, but it's not to them. They're going to get the same guy every day.
Man, it's so funny. We're going to transition a little bit into football in the season, but I'm going to harken back to an interview we did previously. We interviewed a lot of the coaches' wives, and Debbie said something that was really interesting. We asked a lot of them, we said, do any of y'all send text to your husbands during the game? And they all said, no. Yeah. And Debbie with a resounding yes, but she didn't want to elaborate on anything beyond that. What are those texts? Do you see them on your Apple Watch? Like, what's going on there?
Yeah, I don't wear a watch, and I don't have my we're at home. My phones are in my office, and we're on the road. They're in the locker room, so I don't see them. But I will tell you this. Before I get to the press conference, she has said to Kirby and Mount Dowdy, what in the hell was Joey thinking? Like, literally, I'll walk into the conversations that they're talking about, like, what did I do? She grew up, she was a cheerleader, but she grew up, her brother pitched in the major leagues for the Braves, Rockies, and Cincinnati Reds. So she grew up as in that world. She's extremely competitive. I mean, she is extremely competitive at anything. I mean, let me tell you, you come over to our house and throw bags, our players know she is going to talk the entire time. She is a great trash talker whenever it comes to throwing bags. I mean, her and Tony Bradford had some wars in our backyard, John Curry and her are like enemies when it comes to bags, because John Curry usually has the one that can beat her on a consistent basis. So he talks a lot of smack to her. And so she is going to tell me, I always tell everybody, like, I'm going to hear stuff from between my dad and my wife way before I ever read it or if anybody else says anything about it.
Yeah,
That's
awesome.
hilarious.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, Coach, you mentioned obviously hiring your son Garrett. What was that process like? I mean, what's that relationship like? Obviously, you've got the father-son relationship, but also having him now on your staff, coaching with you, working together every day. I'm sure it's a blast. But talk a little bit about that relationship, what that's like for you and for him as well.
Well, whenever I got the job, I called him, and he'd been in the NFL for a year. I called him and I said, "Hey, man, I'd love for you to come to Tech." And he goes, "Dad, I really don't want to come to Lubbock until I have more years under my belt, and because he goes, I don't want to come in here and I've only coached for a short amount of time and I'm your son versus Coach McGuire." And, it happened a little bit sooner. I knew it was going to happen. I mean, that's our dream. But it happened a little bit sooner and it worked out perfect. They had a change on offense at Nebraska. We had a change here with Kitley getting a head coaching job. And so it was great. I'll never forget that when I walked down to Lance Barlow, who's my head strength coach, and I said, "Hey, man, I'm going to get to hire Garrett." And he goes, "We just got tougher." And I kind of looked at him because he wasn't the strength coach at Baylor. He just knows Garrett, but he wasn't there. Garrett had graduated the year before he got there. And I said, "Why do you say that?" And he said, "Well, because he's grown up in everything I'm trying to create. Like he doesn't know anything other than what we're trying to do here. And so he doesn't question it. Where he's really, really good for me is he is extremely honest. He's very intelligent, and he's going to tell me whenever I'm missing the mark. He'll do it in a very respectful manner. It's not a dad. It is very much a assistant coach relationship. But if he goes, "Hey, you remember when you did this," or "Hey, that's not what we did," or like he's very good about that, or "Hey, have you thought about that?" And then I'm telling you guys, as a coach, everybody's going to say this to dad. I'll bet you any amount of money, and I'm not supposed to be betting, but this isn't sports. So, but you can pick a coach and you can bring him up here and put him on the board, and Garrett will go to work on him. Garrett's as good as far as X's and O's as anybody I've seen. I'm telling you, if you bring Belichick, which he's been a part of Belichick's world and knows some of those guys really well. But if you're sitting there and you want to say, "Okay, offensive football, we want to run this play. This is the front we're going to run it against." He's going to draw it up. "Hey, here's the route they're going to run. This is what it's supposed to push to. Here's what the quarterback's going to do. Here's what the running back's going to do." Like, he is as good as anybody that I've been around. He gets all his intelligence from his mom, and he's got it close. He really has, like I say, he's got a photographic memory. It's pretty dang close if it's not. So everything he's seen, he can really articulate. And then, man, he's grown up in a locker room, and he's grown up in Cedar Hill, and then he grew up in a Baylor locker room, and, he slept under my desk whenever he was 5, 6, 7 years old. I mean, he's just grown up in that environment. He's really good. So it's good for us. He and Mac have become really close. They're both coaches' kids. Leftwich, our OC, and I think they're working really well together.
What a blessing, man.
Great answer.
Yeah. Speaking of hiring coaches, you obviously had to hire 2 new coordinators this year. What is that process like? Because obviously there's hundreds of coordinators you could choose from, hundreds of schemes come from different coaching trees. So like, how do you begin to narrow down at the beginning of that process what you're looking for on each side of the ball?
Well, first, I'm telling you, our fan base is going to fall in love with these 2 dudes. They are rock stars. I mean, and not only are they rock stars, but they brought really, really strong coaches with them. But I'll start with Coach Wood. The one thing, again, A1 coaching does really well is they're going to, whenever we're going through the change, they're going to give me candidates, different people, and they're going to give me a lot of data of what these guys do. We also work with a company. It's called the Swimmer Company, and they evaluate coaches, and they also evaluate every college football player in the country. And so they've been a big help in the portal, but they evaluate coaches. And one of the big things that with Coach Wood was what he was able to do with the roster they had at Houston. And so I was lucky. One of my really good friends, Sean Bell, we worked together at Baylor, and then he worked with Wood at Houston. I called Sean. I said, hey, man, I'm hearing all this good stuff. I've done all this research. I really keep going back to this guy. How is he in the office? And he said, man, he is awesome. I love him. His wife's great. I mean, everything's great about him. But then he said on the football side, he goes, he's one of the best game day play callers he's seen. And so, man, we started talking with Shill and, kind of went back and forth. And that's a process, me talking to him, but then Jonathan Boutros talking to his agent and kind of going through everything like that. And I was able to get Shill. Mac, this is a really good story. So I'm talking, we both are represented by A1. And so I'm talking to Alex and I said, hey, look, I still wanted somebody, the people that I was talking to, I wanted an air raid. They didn't have to be air raid, like strictly air raid, but I wanted some kind of concepts because the one thing I do believe, Red Raiders understand offensive football because of Mike Leach, one of the greatest of all time, right? And so you got to have some of that. And I didn't want to go away from who we are. And so whenever I was talking to Alex, he goes, well, listen, man, this dude is hot. Like, he's got this interview. He's got this interview. Right now he's in Utah. And I said, well, when's he getting back into Texas? And he goes, it's going to be pretty late. And I'm like, well, when can I talk to him? And he goes, well, you better find a way because Utah is going to, it's not going to be because of money that they don't get him because they've got a really good administration. They're going to spend. And I said, okay, give me an hour. So I called one of our donors, one of the greatest dudes, Mike Wallace. And he is an absolute stud. And I said, Mike, I need a huge favor. And our donors know, man, I only ask whenever we got to get it done. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to take advantage of them because they do so much. And I said, Mike, is there any way you could send your plane to Salt Lake City and pick up Mac Leftwich? So he left the interview and got on Mike Wallace's plane, and I flew him here to Lubbock. And we came up here, and I interviewed him up here. I took him to Las Brisas. Las Brisas is undefeated, guys. Mm-hmm. Like, you're going to have a hard time beating Las Brisas. And then I brought him back up here, and he met with James Blanchard, and we literally went through the entire roster, and then we went through how aggressive we were about to be in the portal. And the next morning, I went and picked him up, and he was flying out on Southwest. He was flying back to Austin, and it was really early. I think I picked him up like at 4:30. And he goes, Jeez. Coach, I'm all in, man. I'm all in. And I said, all right, I just got to tell you one more thing. You may have more pressure on you than I do on me. Because if we don't score enough points, the fan base is going to be pissed off at you, man. So you better get ready. And he started laughing. He said, Coach, I'm ready. And so I'm telling you, before the transfer portal even opened, we won the offseason with getting those two
That's awesome.
coordinators. Yeah.
Man, Coach, this is, I probably shouldn't say this, and I'm going to out somebody that I probably shouldn't, but I was following the OC search very closely, and I knew that Mac was in Utah. And then we saw, there's all the flight tracking stuff. Everybody's monitoring that. And we saw there was a plane coming from Salt Lake City to Lubbock. And I was like, that is so strange. And so I called my brother, who's a pilot, and he used to do stuff in Lubbock. And I said, Jett, you got to call up there and you got to get me. I need an itinerary. I need to find some stuff. He's like, Z, I'll do you one better. I'll pretend I'm with Tech and I'll say, hey, is Mac there? Is Mac there? Just do that to confirm it.
Well,
and,
guess
he
what?
did that for me.
Guys, this is a true story because they told me whenever I got up there to pick him up that somebody called. So you're telling the truth. Now I know who it was.
And Jett is, this is not about Jett, but he ran at Tech, and he's not a huge sports fan. But I asked, and he's like, "Oh, dude, I'm on it." He just loved the reconnaissance. Yeah, just figured I'd share that.
That's cool.
But Joe, when we talk about this season, I know there's a lot of stuff coming up this year. There's a lot of publicity, and you guys have done a great job managing that. There's a lot of players that have a lot of hype. There's a lot of coaches with a lot of hype, but there's 85 plus guys on a team. Who are some players that you think aren't getting enough, pub right now that you think are really going to contribute this year that you think maybe you're getting a little bit left out of the limelight right now?
I've been big on talking about Romello Height, just because he's been left off of it's ridiculous. It's an absolute, it's a joke that he wasn't on some of the preseason Big 12. It's almost like it discounts those publications when they haven't done their homework to leave that guy off
Sure.
anything. Like even if it's like fourth team, like he deserves to be on something. So, but he's a higher profile guy. So I think, some guys right now, not a lot of people have talked about him. A guy that's, I think, probably the MVP of camp right now is Dante Balfour. He's a transfer corner. He has been really, really good. Some young guys I'm really excited about. Oliver Miles, he's playing safety. He'll be a number 2, but he's also going to be in a package to where, when we do more of our dime package, he can come in and he can really cover. So I think he's a guy that people need to know. I'm really high right now on John Curry. He had a great scrimmage. Sure. He's a local,
Coronado legend.
Guy. Yeah. His mom's an absolute legend at Texas Tech and in basketball. His dad, his dad played here. His granddad played for the 49ers. So really high on him. Jacob Ponton is in a fight right now to be our starting right tackle. So I think, those guys, and I think Jack Burgess, our punter, has made a huge improvement to where I think we're going to see. It's hard to follow the greatest punter in Big 12 history, Austin McNamara. And I don't know if y'all saw what he did yesterday, but he killed it with the Jets. And so I think Jack has really done well. There's so many. This is a deep team. I honestly, guys, and I've been in the Big 12 championship, and I left the Big 12 championship team that won it. This is the deepest team I've been a part of since I've been in college football. And so there's a lot of guys that, you're sitting there, you've got this, like Duda Banks. We hadn't seen him since Baylor after he got hurt, but man, he had a great scrimmage yesterday. You forget sometimes about those guys.
Sure.
And so I'm really excited, with the depth of what we can do and what we can put on the field.
Yeah, Coach, 2025 is obviously a huge year for us. I remember when we were talking to Debbie, she actually mentioned year 4 at Cedar Hill and how I think Garrett mentioned to her, hey, this is year 4 at Texas Tech. And so I know you've talked a lot about your expectations, what you hope to see this year. And obviously we know the goal is Big 12 championship and CFP. Texas Tech has been pretty open about that. And I think that's the way it should be, right? Like what are you doing if that's not your goal? And so just talk a little bit about how, like the excitement level that you have, not only for yourself, for your staff, for these players, but also just for Red Raider Nation to see all the work and all the investment that's been put into the Texas Tech football program to really play itself out on the field in 2025.
Yeah, the last thing you said is what it's all about. I cannot wait to get on the field. We've been talking about this roster. We've been talking about the transfer portal. We've been talking about the freshman class. It's a really good class. I'm ready to go play, man. I'm ready. I'm really excited. I think that our guys are really hungry. This is an old team, very mature team. It's a very player-led team. There's not a lot of. I have a group, and I'll use it. We'll have captains, but I'll use this group all year long of like having a leader in each room, and I'll just text them, hey, this guy was late. I don't want to handle it. You need to handle it because you don't want me to handle it. Because I'm going to handle it as a whole team deal. Y'all fix it. And so these guys, man, they really are they're pros when they come into this building. And they understand, what we're trying to do. What's really cool is because we're an older team, these younger guys are freshmen and redshirt freshmen / sophomores are benefiting from it. You're going to see young kids play at a higher level because they're walking into a room and they see David Bailey and Romello Height, and this is what a football player looks like. So all of a sudden, Cheto Afila is like, okay, I need to do what they're doing. You know, you walk into a room and you had Taj Brooks last year. So Jacoby Williams and Cam Dickey, Adam Hill, they all learned from him. So they're like, oh, this is what a football player looks like. This is what a pro looks like. And so big thing is I can't wait to get to a game, man. I can't wait to turn these guys loose and let them go play and let them have some fun.
Well, Coach, you're less than 3 weeks away from that, so it's coming up soon, man. And I know we're all looking forward to it. We're so excited. I think the hype around Texas Tech and just what you've been able to build in your short going into 4 years here. I know the success hasn't been exactly what you want in terms of winning a Big 12 championship, but it's in front, and we're excited as a fan base too. And just wanted to just say thanks for the opportunity to have some time to speak with you. And we're going to be there August 30th as well, man. We're ready, and it's going to be a heck of a season. And so we're just looking forward to seeing you guys compete, and just really appreciate you taking the time to speak with us. We can't wait to get going as well, and look forward to talking to you again soon.
Well, I appreciate you, man. I'm a big fan, and I know you are going to be doing a lot of stuff with us, with ESPN Plus and jumping on board. And I'm all in, man. I appreciate it. I'd followed y'all, but then really upped it whenever the wives came on, and I thought y'all did such a good job with them, and they're a handful. So, I just tell you, man, I know whenever this airs, if you hadn't got your tickets for every home game, man, do not miss it. It is really, we talk about it all the time. It's got a chance to be like a storybook, or could easily be a 30 for 30 if everything goes the way we think it can go. And, I know it's football, and we've got to have, we got to stay healthy, and we've got to have good things happen. But I promise you, in that locker room, they believe, and they're going to come out and they're going to play really, really hard for Texas Tech and Red Raider Nation.
Man, can't wait. We'll be there. Well, Coach McGuire, thank you so much for your time. Good luck here the next couple of weeks for the rest of camp, and we'll talk to you next time. So for Zyler, Clayton, Conrad, I am Brennan. We'll see you next time on the Broadway Shuffle. Wreck 'em.
He makes the catch. He's going all the way. 20,